Welcome back to Holistic Healing Association. Today I have with me Bruta, who's a somatic therapist. Hi, Ruta. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
And where
Pleasure
are
to
you
be
calling
here.
in? Thank you. And where are you calling in
Uh,
from today?
I'm currently in London. Originally, I was born in Lithuania in Eastern Europe. Not many people know of Lithuania, and I've been living in London for the last 12 years, and that's where I'm
Nice.
today.
And how do you enjoy London?
It's uh, it's challenging. It has its own challenges, but also has many opportunities. So it's a bit of everything. Some challenges and some great things. Meeting people and expanding my horizons of different cultures and different things to do and practice.
Okay, thank you. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am from Lithuania, like I mentioned, and I've been living for 12 years in London now. I started as a chef. I've been a chef for about 10 years. And then eventually I started training as somatic therapist about 5 years ago. Then I found embodied processing training. Before that, I trained with one therapist in like shamanic healing arts and shadow work. And since then, I've been training in many modalities like IFS, internal family systems, EMDR, and also being very much interested in different cultures, spiritual traditions, especially ancient arts of healing and understanding human psyche, human soul, because psyche actually means soul. So understanding the human soul.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And what advice do you have for everyone out there on how we can help open our hearts?
That's a very big topic for humans because these days, in consumerist society, we have such a hard time opening our hearts. We are too busy in the head, and we often are so consumed by consuming things like take, and we kind of on the lookout. What's the next thing I'm going to consume or take? So I would say one of the easiest ways to uh, come into the heart is to slow down, to take a breath, to take a moment and maybe inquire, how can I offer something? How can I give to society? How can I serve society? Maybe even going higher, how can I serve spirit? How can I serve God? What do I have to offer to people around me? And I think when we are considering that I can offer something, that's the time when the heart begins to open because we're extending rather than taking in and trying to fill a hole that it cannot be filled with things. And love is, I think, is also about giving. Loving is more pleasant than actually, well, being loved is great, but when we love is even better. And when we can offer something of service, just like a flower, it's like when you like a flower, you pluck it and you own it and you say, it's mine. Beautiful, I like it, it's mine. When you love a flower, you consider what circumstances does this flower bloom in? What circumstance does it need to be healthy, nourished? What soil, how much water to put, how much sunlight does it need? So that's love. It's considering. It's looking outside of yourself to see that there's other beings, living beings around you, and think, what might they need? How can I serve? How can I give something? And being present is actually one of the main things we can serve other humans around us. Because in this society, we're so distracted. We rarely have any moment to just come back to ourselves and ask this question: how can I give back to life? How can I give back to people that I love? How can I be the person that will consider them and understand what conditions do they need to thrive?
Okay, thank you. I completely agree. And it's small acts of compassion. Like even like opening a door is where you're walking past in a grocery store. If you're in a grocery store and somebody's food falls out of their hands, that has happened to me because I'm carrying everything at once. I forgot the grocery. I didn't have the loonie for the grocery cart that we have to pay here in Canada, and I drop some food. Somebody comes along and helps. Right?
Yes, so these kind of simple acts can be very satisfying. And it's a question like, why is giving often more satisfying than taking? Taking is very temporary. You know, you take something, you want the next thing. You take something and you want the next thing. So it's always this kind of search and chasing, like what's the next thing I'm gonna take and consume. But when we focusing more on the giving, it's as if we expand and we notice these things. Like you said, you know, if you drop a grocery out of your hand, you can't carry all of it. Someone just comes and picks it up, looks at you and smiles at you and is like, here you go, I got it for you. It's like, you know, you feel like, wow, this person noticed me, and it hits differently than, you know, taking. It's also a surprise sometimes. And the
then there's
person probably
connection
walked
there.
away. And there's a connection, exactly. You made a contact, and as if this person noticed you and noticed that, oh, this is difficult for me.
Even just for a
Carry all of
moment
that.
as we're passing through life. We may even come into
Exactly.
contact once in our life, but for that one moment, we had that connection.
Yes, and there can be so many situations in life where these small acts of kindness, consideration, leaves big impressions. We remember that person, or that person in a grocery store, when he or she looked at me, you know, in my eyes, I just felt like this person is so kind and so compassionate, and it kind of ripples.
And we believe too that when we're receiving all these materialistic items or things, it's just going to make us happy, and then it will temporarily. But then we want more and more and more. But when we actually give back, it can touch our heart. And I notice, and I encourage everyone to notice, to look around when bad things happen. Look around. Because you're going to see good people stand up and come and help.
It's true. It's true, yes. In my spiritual tradition, we have a big emphasis on service attitude as a tool to open your heart. And often we find things that is in the way of us opening our hearts as we focus on our surroundings and thinking, how can I help? How can I support my community, people around me? What can I do for the world that will benefit? Then we find all these parts of us that doesn't want that. It says, no, you're the center of the world. Why would you help someone? Everyone should serve you, or everyone should do something good for you. So there's this internal battle, and it's explained in Bhagavad Gita, for example, in yogic texts, Vedanta texts. This internal battle, good against evil, but you can also see like a darkness and light. So the dark forces, you could say, it wants to take, and it can be like a black hole that it takes, but it never is satisfied. And it wants power. It wants to become so powerful, and we just like take over everything. And the good forces is more about giving, or the light forces is more about how can I serve? How can I contribute? And as a human being, we're born with both of those forces. And our intelligence, also called buddhi, you know that Buddha was the embodiment of buddhi, of awareness. Through that awareness of these forces, we can, like you said as well, become more aware of our environment and notice these forces that I can do one thing, like just ignore it and don't care and see what next thing I can take. Or we can think about, how can I give back to the world? And that will help us to open our hearts. It's like these two forces that one is going outwards, but outwards in the form of empathy and compassion. That I'm suffering and I know others are suffering too. So let's help each other. Let's support each other. Let's be there for each other. You know, these emotions that we really don't like and we think they're bad, but that's our judgment that says it's bad. So similarly with these forces as well, it's our judgment that perceives them as bad because we don't fully understand how it works or functions. And then we see this light as like the good force, but it's again, it's energy. So through the buddhi awareness, we can notice these two forces and how they interact within us, and that we can act from one force or from the other force. But ultimately, it's the intelligence and the awareness that chooses to take action. And that's actually yoga, is to be above these dualities of material realm, you know, seeing something as good or bad, and just seeing it as it just is. And we can become curious about what is around us. And we see a lot of dark forces, and for dark forces without awareness is destructive. Dark forces with awareness can be channeled to serve light.
To serve light?
To serve light or to serve good, I would say. You know, however a person understands this kind of dual reality. You know, there's dark and there's light. To serve good is to serve light. And use those dark forces, so perceived dark forces. It's just that the energy is kind of undirected. It's not under any direction. But when it's used under intelligence or awareness with compassion, it becomes energy that is serving light, if that makes sense. That's actually also shadow work. I'm just saying that it's important for us to recognize how they show up in us. For example, those lower natures, I would say, where we don't have perhaps full awareness of. For example, anger in many cultures, especially spiritual cultures, is being deemed as bad, as evil, as devil, you know, like, you know, you should never feel angry. But again, with this attitude towards anger is very judgmental. So what yoga teaches us is to detach from judgments, to go above judgments, and just see that this is energy. Like when we get angry, there's so much energy in that. And maybe examining the situation a little bit. For example, if someone is hitting a child, you would get angry and you would be like, that's not right. So that's a anger that has a purpose. It wants to protect the innocent. It wants to protect the one that cannot protect itself. So it's about how it's applied, these forces. So you can go with that same anger, same energy, and talk to the parent and say, wait a minute, stop. Like, this is a child. You can't be hitting a child. This is not right. And that
That's
anger
right.
is actually
That
doing a good
protection.
thing.
That, like, if somebody breaks into your
protection.
house and you don't have any anger, they could hurt your whole family. So you need to be able to feel into that anger and protect. And we were just discussing just the other day, I had someone that I know start to degrade people with trauma. And that made me feel angry. And
yes.
I said some things. I said, these are my people. If I have trauma, and if you're judging people with trauma, I'm with them 100%, and you're judging me. And you know, I said, if you have a problem with people with trauma, maybe you should look at yourself and see what you're seeing in these people that maybe you've seen yourself and you don't want to accept. And that people here are brave enough to admit that they have trauma and to do healing work. And some people never get to that point. So
yes.
And when we do start our healing journey, it can impact our entire life.
Absolutely. For sure. So that's where I'm trying to kind of say that, you know, things that we might perceive as somewhat bad, you know, I should never feel like this. it actually in disguise might be a very thing that will keep your family safe, will protect the innocent. And it's just about your awareness of it and how you engage it. And of course, anger, same emotion, same energy can be used to destroy, to, you know, I think anger, that's the toxic kind of anger, the one that starts wars on, and drops bombs on whatnot. But it exists within us in the human psyche, and that's what actually Vedas teach as well, of that these forces exist in us, and it's our responsibility to become aware of it through self-inquiry, through understanding of our own shortcuts, kind of, where we perhaps are not aware yet of, and how can we bring awareness? And awareness is like this light that once it shines on something inside, it's no longer in the darkness. So it becomes more of a force that you can use to do good. Same energy with awareness can be used to do the right thing, like protect children, protect your family, serve your community. So many great things can happen.
Okay, thank you. And what do you believe divine mercy is? Have you had a personal experience with divine mercy?
I would say I had many experiences, but one that really stands out for me is about 5 or 6 years ago. I remember just before the lockdown when everyone was panicking and going in a way a bit crazy, and all their kind of uh, behaviors, coping behaviors start coming out, drinking and, trying to kind of cope with the situation. I remember I felt really lost in that moment. I just felt like everything is falling apart in a way. My job is falling apart, people around me falling apart. And I kind of just came to prayer and I prayed and I said, I'm lost and I need guidance. And if there's anyone out there, God, Spirit, please help me. I need guidance. And just a few days later, just before everything closed down, I think it was one of the last yoga classes. My yoga teacher asked me, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Not really, actually. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not really. I'm struggling." And she suggested me to see someone. It was her previous therapist that was no longer seeing her. I said, "I think it would be a good time for you to see her." And I said, yeah, I think that would be great. I think that would be a great idea. So she gave me a contact. And from that day, then I got in touch with her and I started therapy for 4 years with the same person. And that opened up so many different doors for me to look for people in the world that will support my healing journey. And I made a list of things that I want for myself to kind of help me heal and, overcome my kind of um, parts of me that is still dragging me down or somehow I'm not aware of them. And I wrote down things like I want to be in a community. I want to know a community of people that are like-minded, spiritually minded, who likes to be creative, sing and dance, and they also all vegetarian or vegan, and I can relate to them. And I got invited to this event like a few days later, like very shortly after I got invited. It was a secret event because at the time it was already kind of lockdown vibes, and I had to kind of secretly go to this event, but I really felt like I have to be there. And everything that I described in my notes, it was happening in that event. People were
Interesting.
dancing, people were singing, and everyone was vegetarian and health minded. They all were aware of importance of looking after your health, and they were very creative. And when I talked to them, they were very compassionate. They looked at me like, wow, I get it. It is a very strange time right now. And they just listened to me and were present with me. And I was like, everything I wrote down is like in front of my eyes. So I think the divine mercy is that hand and on that eyes that looks at you and really shows you, I'm here for you. I'm listening and I hear you with compassion and empathy. And sometimes it feels like this is somewhat divine mercy showing up in front of me, in front of my eyes.
That's really cool. And I agree. I believe that God can bring people into our lives. Sometimes people come into our lives on purpose. It's planned. And
Mhm.
I remember the darkest time in my life when I was being abused. I had this lady, she was at church, and the priest picked up the bread and put it above his head, and he was saying prayers. And that is, for a Catholic, the most important time during the Mass. And I did not know this lady very well. And she all of a sudden got me in her head. She had no idea what was happening, and she couldn't get me out of her mind. So she
Wow.
came to check on me,
Mm.
and I talked to her, and she gave me huge support
Mm.
for a long period of time. And we
Mm.
became friends. And she was one of the people that helped me through it. So I also believe that would be divine mercy moment, that God was sending someone in my darkest times to come and help me.
Yes. Wow, beautiful. That's similar how I felt at that time. It was super dark times, and here is someone looking at me and supporting me, being present and listening, and the things that I asked for is right here in front of me. And it can be one person, it can be a group of people.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what spiritual background we come from, because God loves all of us. And
Mm.
He's going to answer everyone's prayer
Mm.
and be there for everyone.
Yes, because he knows our heart. He knows us better than anyone. He knows
Oh,
our
He created
longings.
us.
Knows- Exactly. So he knows us better than anyone else.
Yeah. Okay. And today I'd like to bring you, Ruta, and everyone in for a resource and a body scan. We're going to be bringing in a time that we actually gave back to another person, and just starting to notice how it made us feel, or makes us feel in the body when we were giving back. So I'd invite all my viewers, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes and keep your eyes closed throughout this process, and have a seat, get comfortable. You can ground your back against the chair, ground your feet against the ground, and just let out a sigh. And we'll start off with a simple body scan, to become more aware of what's happening in our body. And we'll start by our feet, maybe just wriggling our toes. Putting a little bit of pressure into the ground. And noticing any sensations that we may be feeling. And as we're doing this body scan, we'll be noticing any sensations or emotions that are arising throughout our entire body. And moving up to your ankles, your calves, knees, and knowing everything is welcome. Thighs, glutes, hips, lower back, and slowly working up the spine, nice and slowly, to our upper back, our shoulders, our forearms, hands, maybe wriggling your hands or rubbing your hands back and forth and just noticing how that even feels. Just rubbing your hands back and forth together. And moving back up the arms to the shoulders, wriggling the shoulders around a little. Moving up the neck to the jaw. The nose. The eyes. Ears. Maybe giving yourself a little bit of massage in the ears very gently. Through 2 fingers, 2 index fingers. And starting to rub your face, giving your face a bit of a massage, your forehead. Rubbing your temples. And just letting out a sigh. And moving down to your chest, maybe putting your hands on your heart space. And just noticing the aspects of what's happening in your heart. Letting out another sigh. Letting out another sigh. Moving to your stomach, noticing if you're feeling any emotions or sensations. And maybe even start to sway back and forth a little. You can hold yourself just like you were. Or you can put your hands on your shoulders and start to tap back and forth a little. Do whatever's right for you. And you may like to keep your hands there or bring your hands back to your heart space. And I invite you to bring up a time that you saw someone that maybe is suffering or is in need of some compassion and kindness. And you were the person to show them that compassion, that kindness, that sense of grace. And noticing the person's face and their facial expressions. And just really bring yourself back to that moment of opening your heart to help another person. or even an animal. And just notice what you see. What do you hear? What do you smell? And how does it feel in your heart space? Noticing all the aspects, knowing everything is welcome. Maybe letting out another sigh. And noticing what emotions are arising and where you're feeling your emotions in your body and what's happening. And when you're ready, you can slowly start to open your eyes and take your time, only when you're ready. How are you feeling, Ruta?
I feel like my heart is being expanded.
Cool. And how does that feel?
I feel this like tingling warmth in my chest, and as if it's extending to another being, and I'm noticing their presence, and I can feel what they're feeling in a way. But I'm holding space for those feelings, as I'm holding space within my own uh, body for those feelings to kind of come through. And witnessing someone, I'm specifically thinking of someone from one of the healing retreats I've been to. I was cooking there a few years ago, and I found this girl who was crying, and no one was around her. And I looked around, everyone was like doing something or talking to someone else. And I went and I sat with her, and I just silently sat with her. And she kind of like slowly looked at me, and she noticed my presence. And she kind of started lifting off. And however she was, I was completely in acceptance of her in whatever state she was. And I just showed that I'm here. If you want to talk, if you want support, I'm here. And I felt this feeling of my heart like overflowing with compassion for this being that I'm witnessing, somewhat experiencing suffering. But my heart is kind of beaming with compassion for suffering of humans. Because I can know what I need when I cry. I need someone to sit with me and not necessarily even tell me, oh, don't cry, there's nothing to cry about. No, I just need someone to be there with compassion. So I did that for that person, and I remember that feeling. and how much this person appreciated just me being there for them when they were crying and no one else was around.
Well, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's so simple, just being present.
Yes. No, I know. It's so simple. And it's
Easy to
something
miss.
though we can all learn. I know, like, yes, thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure.
And do you have any advice for our viewers?
I guess I already mentioned a little bit about the importance of slowing down and beginning to notice, because in this society where we live, especially if you live in the West, everything seems like it's on steroids, like so fast paced. And we forget to notice things. We forget to notice how I'm feeling, how is my, family member feeling, how's my friends. We kind of just snap out of feelings in general. And yet feelings is something that gives the flavor to life. And slowing down is something that will help us to reconnect with the juice of life. And there might be feelings that is uncomfortable. And as yoga teaches us to be aware and be this witness to our feelings, and not just yoga is ancient, and yet it's something that in somatic therapy is spoken a lot. Becoming a witness, becoming a kind of observer of how those feelings move through your body, and instead of judging them, just witnessing and being there for yourself first. And that's a practice to be there for you, and then eventually extending that presence towards the ones you love in your life, and maybe sometimes for people who you don't even know, but you can understand that this is a human being that also suffers just like I do, and is worth of empathy and compassion and divine mercy, just like I do when I suffer.
And just like I do when I suffer.
And I suffer and I know what it's like.
It's not easy.
It's
So,
not easy.
and having someone there to support you, even one person, can make a significant difference.
Absolutely. It's like when it rains, we run under a tree to hide. So sometimes we are that tree
That's a really good metaphor.
that someone can sit in the shade of our presence. And sometimes we sit in someone's presence to like take this to um, shelter. We call it shelter, taking shelter of someone there. When we can't be big, when we can't shelter ourselves, sometimes someone's presence can help us to feel that sense like I'm being sheltered right now, I'm being protected. And maybe that is divine mercy, whoever is there to give you that sense of being
God
sheltered.
working through us.
Mm.
And one last question. What would you like your legacy to be?
Hmm. Where I am right now is I want people to inquire about what is love. And I think we study many topics in life. We study how to make money, how to get a career, how to, get a degree, how to get a good job. We study so many things, but I feel like we don't study enough what is love. So I would want to leave a legacy of understanding more what is love and understanding it from ancient traditions such as Vedanta sutras, Vedic philosophies, which is understanding our connection to God, which is through love that happens. Understanding first what is love is essential to experience love with God. Because we often have this distorted idea of love. Often it's based on greed, lust, some sort of attachment, that kind of take mentality. Me, I want it, give it to me. That is not love. That's more like business. Often, if I give you this, you give me that. That's business. But love is more about I want to give because I love you. And similarly, with God. It's like I want to serve God because I love God. There is no like alternative motive there. I'm doing it because this is the right thing to do, and that's what's pleasing for God. And it's pleasing
That's
for
perfect.
us because we are part of God.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for
And
inviting me.
it was an honor to have you.
Thank you so much.